Welcome, I'm Jon Caldara, president of the Independence Institute and your devil's advocate. A little later in the program, we're going to be talking about educational funding for schools. Why are they so uneven? But first, let's talk about corporate welfare, the city of Aurora, and Gaylord. Introducing, you know them, you love them. You don't love them. Sealover from the Denver Business Journal. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right. And from the Aurora Sentinel, Rachel Sapin. Did I get it right? Sapin?
Sapin.
Sapin.
Thanks
No, I think it's Sapin. I'm pretty certain it is. Okay. I'll talk to some people. All right. Let's start off at the beginning with Gaylord. Why don't I bring it over here? This Gaylord project is by far the largest, I'll use the term, corporate welfare program in Colorado history, as far as putting taxpayers and urban renewal authorities on the hook for hundreds of millions of dollars to build a hotel. Where and why?
Well, it's a project that Aurora, being that it is situated by the airport, they have for a long time wanted to build something for tourists, massive 1,500 room hotel. It would be the biggest in the state if built. And, they just want to do it because Aurora is, it wants to compete with Denver. It's the third largest city in the state. It's ready to grow up and have the same projects as Denver does with downtown. And
although this is not really an Aurora project, it's not going to help downtown Aurora. This is for people flying in on business trips. They take the shuttle over to the Gaylord complex. I've been stuck in these for business meetings before in Texas, in the Grand Ole Opry or whatever it is, and they're just massive structures where the restaurants are inside, the rooms are inside, the meeting halls are inside, and then afterwards you truck back to the airport and out you go. But the problem is that they used urban renewal, and did they use blight to get this together? This was a vote of one person.
Yes.
To say this was a Tabor vote of only one person to put millions of dollars of debt together.
Now, just to be concise, under state law, you can't have an urban renewal district unless there is some finding of blight. This is an area that we need to put taxpayer dollars into in order to improve, or else it will never improve. What they did was very interesting, though. It's in an urban renewal district. It's also they created an enhanced taxing area, and what that is they surrounded this property, or they put this property in this enhanced taxing area. They said, okay, we want to raise a couple of taxes that's really going to help fund it, because all the raised taxes are going to go right back to the Gaylord project and helping build out the infrastructure, things like that. And we want representatives of this area to be able to vote on whether or not we raise those taxes. Well, since it was one piece of property owned by one company, that means one person designated by the company voted, yes, I would like to raise taxes in this area. Bada bing, you have an enhanced taxing area. Now, and the Adams County Court has found that is not constitutional.
That's not constitutional to put all of Aurora into a moral obligation with one guy with a vote. And the blight really blows my mind, because this is a field. All right, this field looked the same way when Colorado was formed as a state. This field looked the same way 100 years before that when the nation was founded. But somehow it's now blighted. How can there be blight when there's not even a building on it?
Here's another facet of Colorado law. In 2010, they really tried to stop the blighting of agricultural land for these projects. But one of the provisions of this law was that if you get every taxing entity who is affected by your turning this into an urban renewal district, which involves you set a baseline of what property and sales tax revenue come in. Anything that comes in over that baseline goes back to the project. And if everybody who's affected by that agrees, okay, we'll be in this district, you don't have to prove blight at that point. All you have is agreement.
How lovely. All right, now Aurora has been worried about the legislature looking at this project and doing something, anything about it, or how these tax increment finances are put together, because it's some real good backroom stuff. These guys were upset even before a bill was introduced to address tax increment financing. Give me the story on that.
Well, Ed probably followed this from the legislature. I just had more city officials calling me, I think like as early as January, saying like, there's a bill you need to call. I think it was Hollinghorst, Dickey
Yes.
Speaker of the House.
Speaker of the House, and talk to her and make sure she's not introducing this bill that's going to attack Gaylord. And I remember just like culling through the House, all the bills like for hours and talking to Wendy Mitchell from the Aurora Economic Development Council. And I just couldn't find anything. And I think you actually wrote a story about it, which was better than me.
Which was fascinating because there was an Aurora Day, and many of these cities have this, a day at the Capitol where the mayor comes in and he brings in constituents, he talks to them. And at this Aurora Day at the Capitol in March, Aurora Mayor Steve Hogan said, a bill is going to be introduced that goes after Gaylord, and it goes after Aurora, goes after the Gaylord, and we want you to pressure people not to back it. We don't know what's in it. We don't know when it's going to be introduced, but it's coming, and we want you to tell people to vote against it. It was the first time in the 9 years I've covered the Capitol I've seen someone come in with that strategy. Now, of course, the upside of that is by the time the bill was introduced very late in the session, there were a lot of people who didn't care what was in it. They were ready to vote against it.
Really?
Yes,
Nice
especially
to
the
have it.
Aurora delegation really came out hard against it.
All right.
And
Bill came out, Hollinghorst put it through, and what
this is not the Dickey Lee Hollinghorst bill. This is a Bill Cadman, Mark Scheffel Republican bill in the Senate that basically said if you blight agricultural land, it has to go to a vote of the people. Even you can't use this provision that Aurora used anymore for the Gaylord. It has to go to a full vote of the people.
Heaven forbid a full vote of the people.
And it had this little time clock in it that was really interesting that basically would have meant that, yes, the Gaylord would have had to go back to a vote of the people of the city of Aurora.
And this bill passed.
This bill died. This one died because Scheffel and Cadman did not want to have a fight with 3 days left that would have raised all holy hell in the legislature about it. So they let it die, and instead, what was passed is a different urban renewal reform bill.
All right, please tell us what the new urban renewal bill is, which is now a law.
This is House Speaker Dickey Lee Hollinghorst's bill is now a law, and what this says is you have to bring cities. Right now, cities can unilaterally declare urban renewal districts. Now you have to bring county special districts and school districts to the table. They have to agree on the money that's being used, how it's being parsed out, and if they don't, they take it to a mediator, and a mediator decides whose case is best.
All right,
That's what
this is now the law. Bringing it back to Aurora. So now, Aurora is freaking out about this. Why? And what are they doing? And what is Gaylord doing? Because I'm completely befuddled. Which is not uncommon.
From what they're saying, they're doing something they were going to do anyway that they haven't got around to because they felt like they're being attacked in the legislature all spring. So now they're finally doing what they said has been part of their urban renewal plan since 2011 that the city council approved, which is just they have the final site design and they just want to reduce the plan or the urban renewal area from 125 acres to 85 acres. So,
all right, so Aurora comes up with this announcement that this Gaylord project, instead of taking this much land, we're going to bring it down and it's going to take this much land. Is that basically it?
Right, and they had
Why did they do this?
What they're saying is that they knew it was going to be a little smaller, the site, all along, but they just didn't have the final design plan in place. And they're saying at this point that this is not something that is changing or substantially modifying the plan, and that they don't think there's going to be any issue with this passing city council like it did unanimously Monday night. I think only one.
Yeah, tell me about
council.
it. So there was a vote, and the city council had to okay shrinking the size of this
exactly,
project.
but I mean, it wasn't a tense or it wasn't an intense council session. The mayor was not there because I think he just had surgery, I want to say, and 2 council members were absent, so it wasn't like a huge vote or anything. And there was no discussion of it. Everyone passed it except for Renee Peterson, who says no to everything. So
good for him, whoever he is. Why now? Why was that vote? Was there a feeling that we needed to do this now before this new law kicks in?
They do say that in the backup for this measure they passed. But when I talked to the city attorney, he just said that this is house cleaning. We've been meaning to do this, and we just don't know how this urban renewal bill is going to impact us, just like other cities have, like Colorado Springs and Pueblo. And
as a reporter, has it been easy to get straight answers from Aurora?
This
You're shaking
one
your
is
head
hard.
no. Tell me what you mean.
I mean, they just don't. I think they're just, even if they're doing something right, it's just, I think they are so scared about, they just don't know what's going to happen next. I mean, this project has been scrutinized more than any other Regional Tourism Act project. I think
being the
at least.
largest bit of tax giveaway in Colorado history, I think they should expect a little bit more scrutiny than other ones.
But I think, like, didn't Colorado Springs, like City of Champions, doesn't that have like 121 million in RTA?
It's getting more from the Regional Tourism Act, the state funding. Although Colorado Springs isn't putting up as much money as the 300 million that Aurora is putting up in incentives for this.
Yeah, right, right. Which is probably why they're protective of this.
Right.
Tax incentive.
I got a sense that you feel that it's hard to get a straight answer. Is it because they don't know at the city, or that they don't want to tell reporters?
You know, I think it's a mix, honestly, but that's just speculative. And I think from this legislative session and seeing what happened, I didn't believe a bill was going to come through because, you know, I would call like the House Speaker and she would have no idea what I was talking about, and it was like embarrassing for me as a reporter. And then a bill did come up.
Basically, the Urban Renewal Authority and the Economic Development Corporation, they're screaming, "There's a bill! You got to go do this!" and put you in the situation of calling. They say there's a bill. I don't. What bill?
Right.
So it's good that you get to report on something that doesn't exist. So now that we have the law, was this vote from Aurora preemptive? I mean, what do you think they're worried about?
I don't know. I mean, again, I talked to people today, and they gave me the same answer. Oh, no, this is just house cleaning. We always intended to do this. I can't think that the timing is coincidental, though. One of the provisions of the law, it doesn't kick in. This new urban renewal law doesn't kick in until January 1st of next year. But one of the provisions says is there are substantial changes to the urban renewal district, then this still kicks in, even if the urban renewal district was approved before January 1st of 2016. And I imagine, even though they put, I don't think a legally defensible clause, but a clause into their action that says, by the way, this isn't a big change,
right.
I would imagine that somebody out there would have said, no, this is a big change, and this kicks in this new law, and now you need to bring 3 more representatives to the table. I got to think that had to play a part in it.
Only about a minute here, but tell me, there's already a lawsuit going over the one guy who had a vote. You said that's the judge said you can't do that. So right now, it's in limbo.
It's pending.
It's pending. It's going to go to likely the Supreme Court here in Colorado. What do we know about that?
We know Aurora's still appealing the decision, so it hasn't been decided, but that judge did say that the land was allowed to be blighted and declared an urban renewal district. So they did win that.
So it can be blighted, but it can't be blighted by a vote of one person.
That's what's at question, yeah.
Yeah, it's good to be the voter. What did Mel Brooks say? It's good being king. It's good being king. What's the next step?
The next step, there's another lawsuit that's going through, too, where some Denver hotels basically came forward and said, no, the Economic Development Commission of Colorado needs to reconsider the $81.5 million it granted through the RTA program to Aurora. That has an oral hearing coming up August 4th in the Court of Appeals. After that is done, then the Supreme Court is likely this fall to take up this separate case involving...
Put it in terms even I can understand. So Aurora is trying to get $300 million from Aurora for corporate welfare, and then there's a state tourism thing for another $80-some million.
$81.5 million.
That's a lot of corporate welfare.
Both of those are tied up in lawsuits right now, and both of them are on appeal.
Ed, thank you. Rachel, thank you. Stay tuned.